All right. I think we're live.
Looks like it.
Yeah, we're back live. John, how you doing? Good to see you.
Happy Friday. Good to see. Oh, geez, my back just spasmed. I was like, oh.
Happy Friday to you too. Yeah.
Happy Friday, everybody.
John looks like the short one.
I know. I'm probably
raise your desk
about the same height.
or lower your desk.
Well, my laptop's on a riser, which is why. For good ergonomics, so I don't have to.
You have to look down. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Aaron, how's it going in Wyoming? Is it snowing there?
No, it snowed last Saturday when I wasn't here, but it melted before I got back. And it's been in the 60s and sunny and t-shirt weather this week. So
look at that.
Can't complain.
All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to the audience. Thank you for joining us today for another FutureProofYou.com AMA, where you, the audience, are driving our show. So with your questions, we are happy to ask. My name is Dan Yu, and here along with John Lovig and
Hello,
Aaron
everyone.
McKelkey. You've got all three partners for FutureProof You here on the show. And yes, we are celebrating Aaron when he's here. Yes. And anyway, thank you to anybody that's out there, either on LinkedIn Live or on our YouTube channel. You can find us on the YouTube channel at FutureProof You, the F Yourself podcast. We're there broadcasting live now. And we're here to help you. We're passionate about helping people with their journey. John, you've been especially busy these days,
Yeah.
Q4, right? Q4.
Very busy.
Clients are hiring, right?
Yep. I have a new business call on Monday for something too. It's just been a lot busier than it had been. And I placed a few things. So it's been moving quite a bit, which is nice.
It's great. Cool. Aaron, you are new in a seat. So how's that going?
Yeah. It's a fun adventure. I'm just trying to put stuff in practice that we talk about all the time on LinkedIn Live and on the podcast. So yeah, figuring out how my skills transfer into new domains. And they do. You just have to learn how to contextualize them. That's something John taught me about, especially teachers. Your skills do transfer. You just don't know how. And you have to figure it out. And then you have to show people and create content around it and demonstrate how it transfers so they see it too.
Well, you're like the perfect example of someone who's successfully made that pivot, right? So out of what might seem like a lifelong vocation, and you made it out, right?
Matthew Persico is asking if this thing is on. He's new to LinkedIn Lives. Yes, we see you.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We have Nicholas. In a world that includes both Pringles and Miller High Life, how do employers manage to make life feel dull?
I think it depends on the employer.
But thanks so much for joining. We love all the questions. But yes, how do employers manage to make life feel dull? Well, I think the process of going to your job, right? You have to find the new in every day, right? And so how can you make your day at least interesting enough to continue on, right? So
yeah, I always find too, one of the things that people struggle with is, what happens if my career isn't fulfilling? What happens if I'm the type of person that just wants to pay the bills? And it's like, that's fine. But then you have to what you have to then do is recontextualize the job as a means to other things. right? Mentally, because if not, then it becomes something that can be more draining and have a negative impact. But if you're someone who's not trying to find something that you truly enjoy, then that's the way you have to think about it. And, then you sort of have to diminish the things that you dislike or that drain you from a particular job.
And I know John's the psych person here, but I'm going to share an anecdote that demonstrates my take on that question. When I was leaving a job, I had a coworker say, "I hope you're happy in your new job." And I looked at her and I said, "I'm happy in this job, and I don't get my happiness from my job. I will bring my happiness to that role." And maybe not everybody sees it that way, but if that's where you're looking for my job is boring, it's like, no, I'm a boring person in this job, and I need to find a way to ratchet that up in my own life and bring it into my job. Within the boundaries that your employer sets, because obviously you're going to have to like follow the dress code and maybe not drink the Miller High Life at the desk. But I just view it as you bring it to your job, you don't find it in it. And if you look for it in a job, you're always going to be disappointed. That's been my experience.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed every job that I've had. There are times where maybe there were things about it I didn't love, but it ended up being something that it's because I make friends and we have our inside jokes, or, you learn the funny side of things, that you start to really see a difference, even if it's something, I used to work like night shifts at a gas station, still had fun because of the people that I worked with.
Yeah, it ends up being, just like you say, John, it's the people you work with, right? The EQ and the empathy that you have for each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the teamwork, right? All pulling, the oars towards the same goal. There's I think there's a lot of people that get a little caught up, right? Rightly or wrongly, they get caught up in, follow your passion, right? And, for some people that really works. But I think for others, I don't think it does work as well. Right. And so they have to find the thing that they're good at. They have to find the thing that brings them at least enough satisfaction. And then you bring your passion to that. There's a lot of stories around that, like Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's people that do really disgusting jobs. Right. And they're handling whatever kind of slop. But they found that, they're good at it, and they're going to bring their passion every day. And that passion is going to come out when they talk about what they do. And, that's a great way to connect with whoever you're speaking to when you're networking and talking about, hey, so what do you do? Right. That's a typical question. And so then the passion will just come out in your story.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. It's like, that the gas station that I worked, right, it was also had a drive-through window. And what would we do? We were like the fish in Finding Nemo. We're like, here comes Hazelnut 2 Cream. She's pulling up right now. And the other person's like on the headset, wow, that's awfully early. She usually comes at 10, And you just find ways of having fun.
Yeah. And the inside jokes, I think, are one of the things that can make any job fun. I remember being on a bunch of webinars in 2020 when we had to do a bunch of stuff remote, and we would go into the chat and pick a PG word, and these coworkers of mine remotely would be logged in, and we'd say, who can use this word the most in the chat without them noticing that we're overusing it?
We would do this at the first job that Dan and I worked at. When we would be on candidate calls, we would pick an arbitrary word that you had to keep adding in. And I would do it all the time. It would be like one day, it'd be like, oh my God, that is so, what was the word that we keep using? Not fascinating.
Yeah, I don't remember. That's a long time ago.
It's the meow game.
Riveting.
Yeah.
Like, hey meow, how's it going, meow?
Super Troopers. How many times can you say meow when you pull?
I'd be like, oh my God, that's riveting. And you just see everyone else chuckling while I'm on the phone. I'm like, I want to see you do it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Al. Thank you so much for joining us, Al. Good to see you.
Ours was rigor, and I still remember a line in a Zoom chat where my coworker said something about how it was so rigorous that they felt rigor mortis set in, and we were just like laughing, falling off of our couches as this guy tied rigor into rigor mortis. But the point was, we went into the Zoom knowing this is going to be boring. Our boss is making us do it. Let's make it fun.
Absolutely. You got to, if you got to do it, you might as well make it fun. Right?
Kind of like us on Mondays, right? Or
Yeah.
on whenever we record podcasts or do these live streams.
Exactly. If you couldn't tell by our logo, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yes, our logo was inspired by the universities that have, the letter U as university, and whatever their name is. So our logo is actually FU. Oh, it's actually on my
There it is.
FU. There you go. Aaron's
your
got
swag.
FU, the merch. Here we go. Yeah.
I'm the bad one and didn't wear mine today.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
Tisk.
You are off brand, and that is not okay. There's an angry.
I'm wearing blue though.
somewhere.
I'm wearing blue though.
All right.
And on brand, very nonchalant, casual.
Yeah, you gotta be on a team that actually also inspires you, right? So
yeah,
if everyone's just kind of just showing up and doing the bare minimum, it's kind of hard to be inspired. So I think it's less about the company, but I think it's a lot has to do with the environment that you're in. So find your people. Yeah.
Nick posted, went to a young professionals meeting in Indianapolis last night. Lots of MBA grads, 25 to 32, with a massively high unemployment rate. Most have been laid off in the last 16 months. The keynote speaker said that generational conflicts between millennials and Gen Z versus Gen X and baby boomers equals a primary cause of young people losing jobs. Not sure I agree completely, but there's something there. I will say, at least statistically, there is a lot of evidence to show that boomers have kind of pulled the ladder up a little bit. And it's not just, I don't think it's conflict between Gen X, Gen Z, and Gen Y. I think it's between those three and boomers specifically, because they're not retiring as young. They're holding on to executive roles. There's a lot less movement there. And so people who would normally be at a higher level within an organization are now kind of stuck in middle management in a lot of places, leaving less room for early career folks. But I'm certain that's not the only problem.
Right. I mean, we've been in a no fire, no hire, kind of zone.
Hugging.
Yeah. The job hugging. Yeah. Job hugging. And we've been in that for, kind of on and off, it seems like, since COVID, right? So, there's been some growth for sure, but there's been retrenchment. And I think there is there's definitely a case of seeing a lot of people with a reticence to make a change if they're in a job that's good enough, right? And that's not judging, right? If that's what you want to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. But to answer your question, Nick, this that dynamic, with a massively high unemployment rate, obviously smart people, right? Obviously, people that have capabilities of doing more. I think it's super, super important that people make sure that they're known to be available, right? Obviously making sure you have the green banner on your profile, open to work. I spoke to a couple people this morning that are open to work. They're looking. They're out of work. They're actually, and they didn't have open to work on their profile. I think it sends a signal to your network. Hey, I need some help.
Right? Everyone's open to work, right? If they offered you $1 million to do your dream job, you'd be open to work too. But they don't know you're looking. How about this one? I don't know if we've talked about this. What about the setting on LinkedIn where you can say open to work is only viewable by recruiters? What's our official take, or do you guys disagree on that setting versus everyone sees it?
Well, I think that setting's predominantly for people who are still employed, right? So that's so that you don't, come across as looking when you're currently employed, and recruiters have to agree to a statement that they will not use LinkedIn to look at existing colleagues in order to determine whether or not they're leaving.
Yep.
There's a statement when you sign up that you will not, or whenever you first use that function, that you won't use it for nefarious reasons, and that you'll keep that private.
Yeah. The open to work, I think banner. If you're out of a job, it can't hurt. I think there is a perception, rightly or wrongly. I think there's a perception that that's been going around. And John, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. If they're open to work, that means they might not be that great at their job. And I think there's a lot of people that for whatever reason, could be that they took a leave, family bereavement, sabbatical. They went back to school, and now they're getting back to work. I think there's a million reasons, around.
Yeah. It's the same thing as someone being laid off, right? Jack Welch back at GE created this entire, top grading, bottom 10% every year gets laid off phenomenon. Other executives thought it was such a brilliant idea so they could elevate their brand. Oof, we're only employing the best 90%. Right? Instead of like, hey, how about you grow people? Laying people off is a failure of a business.
That's right.
We don't see it that way, but it's contextualized that way for me, right? If you've been laid off, it's a failure of a business. It's the same thing as any other business decision. If you can't keep the employees that are building your business and you have to let them go because you need to maximize, stock prices, then you did something wrong as a business. You either overhired, or you're not doing something to make your employees successful, or you're just laying people off, right, for a vanity number. And it's the same thing with open work, right? It's a social network. Why wouldn't we want other people to know we're looking? It's like being on a dating site and not being looking.
Yeah. I actually have a bunch of articles on my profile. You can look me up on LinkedIn that are specifically around the open to work dynamic. I had this question from a candidate a couple of years ago. They had been laid off and they were doing whatever they could to hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were literally driving a delivery truck for a big box retailer. That was one of their gigs. They had three gigs. One was actually installing software and into electronics, home electronics, and also speakers, right? And they did that job too. And the third job was I think it was actually working for FedEx, right? And they were hustling and they were making it, and they were able to get benefits from one of their hustles, and while still interviewing. Right. And so their question was, should they put that on their profile, even if it wasn't relevant to their industry? And I said, absolutely, yes.
It explains the gap, at least.
Explains the gap, right? You are still hustling. You're still getting out there.
I've had situations similar where I've had a few clients in the past where they get weirded out by side hustles. They don't like that someone's working at two places at once. They're like, does that mean they're not dedicating their full time to me? And I'm like, listen, in this economy and in this day and age, it's so easy to get displaced by a company that people want to hedge their bets and have another stream of income. It's something we talk about all the time as being something that's useful and important, because you can't guarantee you'll always have a job. You can't guarantee that you're not going to be part of some layoff. And I've talked to so many wildly successful people, especially, like a lot of times I'll speak to marketers. And one of the challenges that marketers traditionally have faced in the past is marketing, much like HR and recruiting, is considered a lot of times a cost center. However, marketing is tied so closely with sales and now has gotten really savvy with data to the point where they can talk about, okay, well, here are the qualified leads that we brought. And they can talk about the conversion between marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads and actually see that connection. And it's like, if marketers aren't putting that information in their profiles, they're struggling. But I talk to these people where you're like, oh, you're obviously making an impact on this business, and yet they still let them go. It's like, just because they're expensive, they're more than paying their own way. When you look at, XX millions in ROI because of the MQL SQL conversion, and it's just fascinating to me. So it's like that stigma needs to go away.
Yeah,
And any company that has it is dumb.
Yeah, more than anything, the key word of side hustle is hustle. Like they're hustling.
Exactly.
Some of the hardest workers I've ever worked with at W-2 jobs had side hustles. As a teacher, one of the hardest working teachers I ever worked with drove Uber Eats at night and on the weekends, and it did not make him a worse teacher. In fact, he was super efficient and well organized and prepared for his day job. So I see it as like those people have work ethics. I've never met a side hustler who was lazy.
Yeah. I recruited by day, bartended at night, and actually it was so much fun until I started working in New York. Then it wasn't fun.
Which is a great example. Sometimes they side hustle, not because they aren't fulfilled or even the money. They have a skill set that they want to practice or a muscle that they want to flex. And you don't get a chance to at your W-2 job, or your boss doesn't let you into that department. And you go, oh, I'll freelance. I'll do a side gig. I'll consult with that skill set and be able to grow that. So that just shows that it's somebody who wants to improve and almost always work hard.
Yeah, but by the way, one other thing in your LinkedIn settings, and I think everyone should look at their settings. You can have open to work on your banner, and your green banner, everything, and you're out of work, but you might have your in-mail settings turned to off. So, like, I've seen it firsthand.
See it all the time.
In-mail settings are turned off to receive job invitations messages from recruiters. What's the point, right? What's the point then? So make sure your settings are on. Make sure, and what you do is you can go to your settings, data privacy, who can reach you, and you have to turn messages on, right? And it'll actually have a radio button there, job invitation messages from recruiters. I mean, if you're looking for work and you have it off, they can't reach you about potential jobs.
Yeah.
So, and back to side hustles. If you have any kind of investments or anything like that, you're probably going to diversify your 401k, right? You're not going to put it all into one stock. Who knows, that one company might go away. Right. And there's a lot of cautionary tales around people that worked at Lehman Brothers when they went bankrupt in 2008. And so you're going to diversify, how you save and how you invest. You really should be diversifying how you make your money as well. So the side hustle is, as John said, it's de-risking, how you put food on the table. So.
Yeah, and if you work for a manager or an employer who fires you because you had a side hustle on the weekends, I know this is easy to say if you aren't in that boat, but you don't want to work for that person anyways. It sounds like a toxic environment and a terrible leader to tie your boat to. So maybe in the long run, I hope for that friend, Nick, it was actually a favor or a blessing in disguise.
Nick, that's a terrible story that they. That the employer was actually stalking their Facebook ad. I think that's a little creepy as well. So,
and it's also like, for an employer, what is the harm? If it interrupts with your day? My whole thing is, employers, as it is, a lot of them don't actually know how to evaluate performance effectively, and most times managers like to dictate how someone does something, and it's usually a quick way to fail. And it's because a lot of times people get promoted to middle management from being a line worker, and they don't know how to manage. And people don't teach you how to interview successfully, how to manage performance successfully. That there's a disconnect in a lot of organizations around that. ultimately what you should be measuring people for is outcomes, right? Not vanity metrics, outcomes that actually equal success. Anything else, as long as they're doing it within an ethical standard, within brand guidelines, company guidelines, things like that, should not matter. Style should not matter. Outcomes should matter. And it's also why you see a lot of groupthink in hiring, because people just want the same thing because they think that's what success equals. And it's like, well, if someone's successful and you can work with them, who cares?
Yeah. When I was a head of sales at a tech company, a fintech company, the sales process was completely reactive. There was no outbound because they had a lot of success, just inbound success. And to get them to, flip the switch and go from completely reactive to be mostly proactive did take a change in the incentivization, right? So incentivize the behaviors. But once that got going, right, then you can talk about goal setting, right? Saying, hey, we want the whole team to get to this number. We want individuals to get to their own individual numbers. And then you can work backwards to what are the smaller tasks that need to get done. And it actually makes it much more palatable, right? Easy to chew for that frontline person to understand, what does good look like within the context of a whole year, right? Or a whole grading period, whatever you want to call it. And then there's less mystery too, right? Because then you'll know especially if you've got the right kind of disciplines, you'll know by June if you're going to make your number.
Yeah.
Right. You'll know definitely by June, because it's really hard to catch up, right? But if you can front load the first part of your period, then the second half, or the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, can be not as stressful.
Yeah. Well, I love measuring success on the agency side, because it's really easy. Are you billing what you're supposed to be on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis? And if you're not, are you sending enough candidates? Are the candidates converting to interview?
Right.
What's the metric that's the breakdown? It's not, I don't care if you send 5 in-mails, you get 5 responses, you interview 5 people, you send 5 people, and one of them gets the job. Right? That just means you're really hyper efficient or something. Now that never happens. But I'm not going to be the one to dictate, hey, you have to reach out to 200 people to be successful, because I don't believe that. And I usually will say, oh, actually, you might be reaching out to the wrong people at that point, and you're losing signal and creating noise. And you might get a high response rate of people who you really shouldn't be talking to in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that's a different way of managing, right? So from what?
Well, you know how I roll, Dan.
Yeah. But like there's famous sales organizations, right, that say you need 60 calls a month and 30 meetings a month, and how much of that is noise, right? And then there's one organization that I'm very familiar with. I actually interviewed there a couple of times back in my day. They had exactly those numbers: 60 calls a month, 30 meetings a month. And when somebody was a little short, let's say going into the last week of a month, they would actually ask their colleagues, "Hey, you're going down to see this client downtown. Hey, can I just come with you?" Or if they're coming back from that meeting, "Hey, can you put me on that meeting that I was with you?" So that they, quote unquote, tag teamed a meeting that they had no business being at. So there's ways to work the system.
Well, and it's also, if you had all those numbers right, but you're still not at the end of the funnel the right number, then it's no longer truly a KPI.
That's right.
Because if it's a KPI, hitting those numbers should guarantee you hit that number.
Yeah.
And so if you're not hitting that end number, it's not a key performance indicator.
No.
So
totally agree.
A good example in the sales world. A sales guy told me my employer said, this is how we do it. I think it was 200 cold calls a week, and you had to log what day you did how many. And he's telling me this. He's like, I don't do that. And I'm the best. I lead by like a multiple of 3 on the sales team.
Yeah.
And so here's a good question. Does your manager say, cool, you got the results? Or do they fire you because you didn't follow their instructions? That's kind of what we're getting at. And you don't want to work for one who's like, I told you from 8 to 3, you have to do this. And you're like, I came in at 7:30 and I got that done and then some in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, if you want the metric to be results, you got it.
I would also go a step further and say that person should probably diagnose his success, and he should probably be mentoring junior people.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So to the audience, thank you so much for joining us again on the FutureProof You AMA. You can learn more about us at futureproof-you.com. We have our blog there. We have a lot of content. We have our courses. We have more courses coming out next month. So please go there and you can learn more about that. And to the audience that's watching here right now, please ask your questions in the chat, either on LinkedIn Live or on our YouTube channel. Please ask questions. This is your opportunity to get answers right from us live. So we'd love to hear from you. We're very passionate about helping people. So thank you for all of our viewers and our questions from Matt and Nick and Al so far. Please send us your questions.
One thing while we wait for any additional questions that I wanted to talk about, and we mentioned this earlier in the week, LinkedIn is launching on the back end, the recruiter side of the platform, a very in-depth suite of AI agents. And I think it will have a big impact on candidate visibility to recruiters. Mm-hmm. And so I'm seeing the demo in an hour, and I can't wait because it seems really cool. But now more than ever, then with those features and functionality being brought into LinkedIn, it means your profile just has to be really up to date. You need to have, things in your profile that you've done, but also your accomplishments and successes, because LinkedIn is going to learn who I look for. And people with slim profiles, the ones who will get away with that will have a title at a company that I'm going after, and everyone else will have to have details. So it's really important to flesh that out, because it looks like it's quite an advanced feature and allows recruiters to prompt based on what they're seeing. I could literally tell it to give me 15 profiles. We'll go over them together to make it smarter. And it will actually use job descriptions to start the process. So, start looking at job descriptions that you're applying for, start mirroring language that are in them.
This is a good moment to plug that we will have our courses coming back next month, and we'll get on that this weekend. I
didn't put them up. I'm sorry. I meant to put them up and I got distracted.
No, that's good. No, you're fine. You're busy. So if you go to futureproof-you.com and you go to our courses, we already have courses that are up that are pre-recorded, and you can just download them and watch them as you will. But we will have new courses coming out, including our LinkedIn Quick Start Guide. So it's a perfect opportunity, especially with new LinkedIn coming. So and we'll be talking about some of what your observations are from watching this demo. We'll be talking about that next week, and we'll be on the pod for that.
And I think that LinkedIn is going to redo some stuff on the job searching interface too. I got a pop-up about that. I don't know as much as you do about the recruiter side, but it would make sense if they're going to rework the back end, that people looking for jobs are going to have a new AI-powered experience.
Agent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's already using machine learning to match you to jobs. So the jobs that show up are ones that are closer match.
Yeah. And I think here's the broader trend that I could definitely weigh in on. people are starting to optimize things not for humans to read and to watch and to understand, but to make them accessible to AI models, to agents. And with the Chat GPT Atlas browser, which I have my own opinions on, people are realizing like no one's going to watch your 1 hour YouTube video, but they might ask an agent to summarize it or give you the key takeaways. And LinkedIn is now doing that for recruiters, and I'm sure for job searchers as well. So how are you making yourself, your content, your profile, your website, your video, whatever you're making, accessible for AI models, not just for humans?
Yeah, I onboarded 2 new searches this week that are both specifically like SEO searches, except now it's regarding LLMs.
What acronym do they use? Because I hear like 12 different ones, and marketers all
I
argue.
know they're all trying. I've seen Geo. I've seen
Funny.
what's the other one I've seen?
Yeah. Generative engine optimization is the one that John's referring to.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can't recall the other one that I've seen recently, but they'll coalesce around something soon. Just like IaaS, inference as a service. That's an interesting
Inference.
Inference, yeah.
Basically, yeah, like rent our chips to run your model off of. You need our
Yeah.
compute.
That's one of my clients is a IaaS company for Gen AI.
So the advice to the audience, don't hate the game, right? Don't hate the player. Just play the game.
Yeah.
Get your LinkedIn profile in order. And
to make the rare Lovig sports reference, because I never make a reference to sports, is you're not going to show up to the baseball game without your mitt, right?
There you go. There you go.
How about that? I used one. Or you know what? I'll make a marching band reference. You're not going to show up to the halftime show without your instrument.
Yeah.
Or your mouthpiece.
And I would add to that, there are people, I just saw some on LinkedIn yesterday, who sit in the bleachers during the halftime show. Not only do they not bring their instrument, they complain about how dumb the halftime show is. And people were talking about AI agent browsers and you don't want to do this because, and it's like, well, you can virtue signal to people about how you're better than that, or you don't believe in it, or you can find a way to have it work for you. I mean, you don't have to use an agent browser to test one out on your profile page. Like,
Nope.
Open your LinkedIn profile in Perplexity Comet or in GPT Atlas and say, tell me about this person. And then see what it says and go, well, that's not what I would want a recruiter to take away from my profile. Maybe I need to make some adjustments and try it again. And the people saying, it's dangerous, don't use it. Of course, there's concerns, but if you're not learning how those things work and how you can make them work for you, you will be left behind.
Hey, Matt, you're asking about a certain class. What's the class title called?
Here, I'll open the link and then I should be able to tell you.
Regardless, I think our 3 most popular ones will be live next month.
Quick start guide.
Which LinkedIn quick start guide. Yeah, we are looking to do that
Thursday, the
6th, I believe.
6th, yeah.
Thursday, November 6th, Matt.
And we're trying to get a asynchronous version downloadable on the website by Monday. It's on my list to edit tomorrow, but it's probably going to be Monday until everything's up and running on the website if you prefer the asynchronous version, Matt.
Yeah, and so Aaron makes a good point. So we do have the asynchronous versions, which you can download and watch on your own time. You can have the live classes as well. And, we do have a lot of content as well on our blog, but, we want to make sure that we're offering multiple products so that you can get the help you need at, the different price points, but pretty much, how you want to consume, the help. So downloadable, asynchronous, or live, right? And when it's live, you're talking right to us, and we will definitely show you what good looks like. And sometimes we have actually done the roast my profile, which is always fun, where we will actually analyze your profile and depending on our mood, we might actually might really crush you on your profile. But it's all in good fun, and we're there really to help. So,
the conversation between Nick and Matt, talking about letting someone essentially go for a side hustle on a weekend or after hours, how could they get away with that without a formal policy? And Nick properly stated a lot of states are at will for employment, which means that you can fire for almost any reason. It doesn't have to be anything except as long as it doesn't fall into something discriminatory.
Which means they won't say why, and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Most places you do kind of have to document something, but a lot of times it'll just be business change, change in direction, compatibility issues.
Yeah. Matt, we'll send you a DM personally when that link is there and when the async version is up. The other thing I want to say to plug that is when platforms add new features or change something, they always incentivize people to start using them. So whatever changes are coming down the pipe from LinkedIn, there will be a first mover's advantage to, let's say, John is one of the first recruiters to use that reworked AI interface. They're either going to make it free or give him access to things that no one else has. And the people who jump in first always get some sort of leverage over the people that say, this is how LinkedIn worked 2 years ago, and I haven't learned the new content formats or interfaces. And the same will definitely be true for the job hunters. I don't know what that looks like, but when they change something, there's always an advantage to being an early adopter of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
plus you usually get influenced by saying, hey, it would be really helpful if it did this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a great content piece on every platform is when they add a new feature, you make content about the new feature for the platform. Don't judge me, but that's TikTok. Every time TikTok adds a new feature, some lady with 12 followers and her most viewed videos, like 100 views, will hit 1 million because she'll be like, here's a new format that TikTok just added and here's how to use it. And TikTok will push that thing like crazy into your feed. So that's like Dan level content creation. If you make content about the new content or the new thing on LinkedIn, write an article on LinkedIn, you get a nitro boost from the platform if you do it well and time it right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've got about 15 minutes left. So if you have any burning questions, now's the time.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great questions today so far.
Yeah, what do you guys see? One of the superpowers that John specifically has taught in a lot of our courses and discussions is look at who's hiring recruiters, and then they're hiring a big wave behind there. So reading the tea leaves, so to speak, since you guys are both in the recruiting world, what shifts or trends do you see right now?
I'm working on a lot of senior roles, so that usually means team builds. So look for senior hires too. Same thing, if they're hiring for a senior executive, chances are that team is going to shuffle, change, grow. You usually don't bring someone on at like an SVP or really high level and then say, hey, oh, by the way, we're going to clip your wings.
Yeah.
And then when they do, that's usually when they end up talking to someone 6 months after they started a new job because they weren't given the budget to actually do what they were told to do. So those are other good ways to read tea leaves as to who's going to be hiring. If someone's hiring SVP or executive level hire in the space that you would occupy, now's the time to start researching who works for that company within that function. Keep an eye on who ends up becoming that leader and start making connections with people within that company and do the groundwork to get to know people there so that you can have a warm intro when that executive is on board.
Yeah, on a broader scale, I think if a company is coming out with some new products, they might need more support people to support that product, right? So if they're coming out with new products, you can safely assume that the product team has done their job, right, in building a decent product, and they're proud, and they have the PR, they're announcing it. But what ends up happening is that more users, right, that they're in the business of gaining more, right, more users or more customers. They're going to be swamping the existing service teams, right? So the service and support, maybe account managers, right? So look for that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
And then even broader, I think, one of the things that we talk about all the time are the unintended consequences, right, of regulatory change, right? So if there's something going on, from maybe your state government or the federal government that's affecting something in the world, maybe it's this administration has decidedly made some calls to pull back on some environmental regulations. What's going to happen? Well, I think business will step in to that. And so what are the businesses that might step in on clean water or clean air? Ultimately, consumers will still want clean water and clean air. And so I think that gap will be filled by business. We have a question from Matt again. What resources would you use to review and rework a resume to get past the screening? Any AIs? John, this is one of John's favorite topics.
I mean, AI is fine. It's fine to give you some ideas, but what I've been hearing from our counterparts in-house is everybody's resume is starting to look the same because people are hyper tailoring it to the job description using AI to do it. And when everything looks the same, nothing's different, right? And if nothing stands out, you don't stand out. To be quite honest, reviewing your resume is tough, and it's always good to have either former colleagues or family members take a look at it as that third perspective. The one thing I would always say is, if it isn't already in this format, make sure your resume reads as an impact-driven resume. What have you changed within your organization? Are there percentages, dollar amounts, numbers that you can use to articulate success? And don't bury that lead. Put it at the top. Put the percentages to the left. Make sure it's very visible to someone reading it. Because at the end of the day, and I say this all the time, so I'm sorry for anyone on an AMA who's heard me say this every time, is I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter for 16 years. My job has not been that functionally different. My tasks have been the same for 16 years, but with variations on how many people I've managed, if I've managed anyone. And luckily on the agency side, I can speak to, here's how much I've billed. But the other things that make me stand out if I'm trying to apply to something, is what processes did I introduce? What things did I do to streamline or help a business be more efficient? What ways did I reduce my time in order to be more efficient? Right. So if I had to write my resume now, I could talk about how many hours I save using AI to speed certain things up in my process, because I can handle a lot more work than some other people who haven't integrated that into their work style yet. And so that's something I would end up putting on a resume if I was to rework or rewrite my resume. Those are the things you want to call out, because that's what makes it different between each job.
Yeah. By the way, Matt, you asked about resume. I think the dynamic, and this is John, you can comment on this too. The dynamic of having a strong resume versus a strong profile, I think it's flipped. I think we've all been raised in a world where everyone thinks that you need a strong resume.
In a world
where that you need a really strong resume. I think it's over. It's been long over. I think it's you need a really strong profile. And so, Matt, that's what our class, LinkedIn Quick Start Guide, will get you at least into a decent spot, within one evening. So,
and I think, the resume is still unfortunately important, and for some reason, it's just not dying, because it just becomes that one source document. And but I think it's the difference between being someone who can potentially attract jobs to you versus someone who is going out and looking and asking for one.
Right.
And what What the resume does not have that we talk about all the time is social proof, right? Your body of work, whether it's content that you create, people who've given you recommendations, the ability to sort of see those things live. It's more like, it's closer to a portfolio than your resume can be.
Yeah, and right now, when especially when you're in a job search mode, right? So your LinkedIn profile is marketing broadly to an audience who you do not know who they are, right? You really don't. And a resume is specific, right? It's some people call it product marketing or sales enablement, and that's directed towards an audience. You're going to customize it, right, for that audience. You're going to customize it and really direct it towards an audience that you have an idea of who they are. Sometimes you know exactly who it is because you have an interview that's coming up, but you have at least a decent idea on who that audience might be. So you need both for sure, but it really starts with having a strong profile. And
let me give you an example from yesterday. A designer at a tech company, I saw their resume, and at the bottom they said, "Here's my personal site so you know I'm a real human," and they put a link. Well, they're a designer. It has all this typography and the graphics they did and the product design, and it was like very impressive stuff. If given both of those to look at, which one do you think is more valuable?
Yeah.
The text-based paragraphs of I was at this firm in this role for this year and did these things, or literally just look at what I did on their website that, by the way, it's real because it's their name and they had the actual work they did. So that the company they were at, it had their logo on it. That doesn't mean your resume doesn't matter, but I agree. And I've experienced this personally. It's, as much as anything, it's kind of a placeholder. Like, it's there. You have to do it. It's perfunctory might be the word. I might be using a word above my pay grade, but that doesn't mean you should spend 8 hours trying to tweak it, thinking that's going to get you the job. Like, it needs to be good enough. Like John's saying, it has to be specific for the job. There's nothing wrong with, hey, AI, take my experience, take the job posting, make sure I'm, on the right track, versus ChatGPT write my resume for me based on this, which, Nick, I agree, as a also former teacher, that would not be a good way to use it. But then go make a video, write a blog, go network with people. Like the 7 hours of polishing your resume after the first are not going to help you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matthew had an additional comment. Well, two things. One, do you recruit software engineering? I recruit all the geeks here, so feel free to connect with me. And then the second, yes, it is behind company walls, but do you have a GitHub repository? Do you use GitHub at all? The other thing, and Aaron can talk to you about this till he's blue in the face because he just did this for himself. He got a job through creating content about what he's passionate about. And so the social proof then becomes content that you create that's your own intellectual property versus something that's behind, a walled garden.
And Matthew, one of the reasons I'm pro side hustle is not just because I've been a side hustler. It's because you can go demonstrate things for the world that your employer would not let you, because let's say it's their intellectual property and you're writing, code in their app, and you can't just put that in GitHub and say, look what I did today. I totally get that. But what's to stop you from going into Claude Code on your personal device, on your personal time, and showing, hey, marketers, here's how I would make a dashboard to see all of your analytics, and, publishing that to GitHub and open sourcing it. Or you'll appreciate this. I have a server under my desk to start self-hosting my own websites. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I have a friend who's like the Claude Code expert. And he's like, you need to start building your own stuff and putting it out there. So like my 11-year-old son has a personal brand website. I have all these ideas. So, I get that your main work, you may not be able to show that off, but a thing that Dan taught me is you can show off how you approach problems. You can show off how you explain things. even if it's not the exact code or language that you're doing at work, you can put that out there for people to see, and that will attract the kind of person who would want to hire you.
Yeah.
Just being mindful of time, as you know, my side hustle can only take my lunch break. And my day job starts again in 2 minutes. Yeah, I think probably we should be wrapping up.
Yeah. So thank you to the audience. What a great session today, today's AMA. We are FutureProof You. So you can find more information at futureproof-you.com. This has been another AMA. We'll be recording our next pod next week with some of John's learnings from seeing the new version of LinkedIn. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for our new courses, which will be coming up in November. We are really excited about the next slate of courses. We are just 13 months into this, and we're having a really great time helping you all. And Matt, you do have a GitHub. Great. And
I already creeped on your LinkedIn profile. So when you do a course, we are definitely roasting your profile. We just won't do that publicly on the live stream like today.
Yeah. And
not because we wouldn't do that, just because John has to go.
Yeah. And Matt, your GitHub link should be on your profile. It is not. I creeped on your profile too.
Yeah. Favorite Raspberry Pi project. I put a SNES emulator, and my kids and I got every Super Nintendo game ever made on our Raspberry Pi so that we could play, early 90s games from my childhood together as a family. It's one of my favorite tech projects I've ever done.
Wow.
That's pretty nerdy, Aaron.
I feel out-geeked for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
John,
again.
Aaron, thank you so much again. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.